We invite you to close your eyes gently and just sit up a little taller in your seat and breathe deeply. Inhale the essence of what is translated as holy wood, the Palo Santo, in the air. With each inhale, recognize that we are exactly where we need to be right now in this present moment. With each exhale, we release all the things that no longer serve us. Settling ourselves into the space of opening the way, opening the divine temple that is within us, even as it is without in this fellowship. Breathing in the stillness, inhaling and exhaling, consciously slowing down our breathing, taking the agency of gratification for being gifted with being alive today, feeling the spirit in the body, inhaling that gift of life called the prana in the yogic tradition, the pranayama, the spirit, the essence, the breath, the life, also called the ashe. Simply being conscious of it right now as we align ourselves for manifestation. Accepting the good that comes with recognizing that we are here, that we are above ground, we are breathing, we are conscious, and we are giving thanks. Breathing in, pausing gently and breathing out, bringing ourselves into an alignment for a beautiful day today, for a blessed moment of thanksgiving. As all eyes are closed, we ask that all heads be bowed in this moment and all hearts be open. As we prepare the way further through the acknowledgement of the awareness of divine presence, the God of your acceptance and understanding, the name, the face, the culture, the energy that brings you inspiration, that reminds you that you are always covered and loved. It is that essence, it is that energy, it is that life, it is that spirit that we speak to now together. All wise and all knowing and all loving God, as we rise in this moment, we give thanks to the spirit of our beginning. We are alive, we are breathing. We are grateful to be living. As we move through this day with our purpose in our heart, we remember that a grateful ending begins with a grateful start, and so we are grateful. We are grateful for the fellowship today. We are grateful for gathering on this beautiful Sunday morning. We are grateful for the weather outside, for the sun that has broken through the clouds here in Nashville, Tennessee, for the safety of those who made it through the storms over the last several days. We are grateful that we are able to show up in this space, in the physical body. We are grateful for those who are on the way here in the physical space. We are grateful for those who are tuning in online from all over the world. We are grateful to be conscious and aware and awake in a time such as this, in a world where needed is good. In a world where change is good and needed. We are here in this space to be that change. We are gifted people. We are gifted with your divine essence inside of us, and so we are gifted to be the change that we want to see in the world. We are grateful to embrace these times. We are grateful to embrace the challenges. We are grateful to transform those obstacles into opportunities. And so, in this moment, we speak and proclaim the good in our lives. We're grateful for the lessons that we have learned in this space. We're grateful for the health and well-being of our people who are under the sound of my voice right now, sending love up to Joshua up in Gallatin, sending love to Brother Sean, who has returned home from the hospital. And we speak that your limbs and your heart, your lungs continue to get stronger and your mind continues to stay focused. May you continue to be surrounded and uplifted in love. We are grateful for the many meetings that we had this week, for the many conversations that people have had at work and at play that transformed them and lifted them up and sometimes had to make them call out for you. But we know that you've always been there and you will continue to be there. And so we are grateful. We send our energies out to the Sebron Adams family in the transition of our now great ancestor, Anthony J. Sebron, for all the lessons that have been placed in the world for him. We speak that today something will be shared, something will be sung, something will be danced, something will be fist pounded, something will be typed, something will be chatted that will remind us that we are always and ever loved, connected, and protected by you. Thank you so much for our speaker today, to Dr. Lee Williams, who has come today to present to us, to open our minds and our hearts. Thank you for aligning him with his divine purpose. May he speak with the confidence of knowing that he is exactly where he's supposed to be in life, in the world, in the community, in the university. We are all made better because of what we learn on this Sunday. For these things and other things we cannot put into words, we simply say, thank you. Breathe in and breathe out. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Hotep. Shalom. Namaste. Ashe. It is time for the pouring of our libations. Come on in, find and grab a seat wherever you see one. As we have opened in affirmative prayer, we call it pouring energy into realignment toward manifestation at infinity. We now prepare for the pouring of our libations. And as we pour this water today, the water represents those of us who are living. We recognize and remember those who have gone before by pouring into the earth, which is what happens to these physical earth suits when we no longer need them. They transition. We know that energy is not created or destroyed, it only changes form. And so there is a space of life after life that goes across all religious traditions. And in this space, we pause to recognize those who we call the ancestors. Other people would call them the angels. Some people would call them the Sheps or the Shepsuits or the Egungun. Tons of names to just basically say, remember your folks. So as we remember our folks today, we want to pour this water and recognize that absence in this physical body simply means presence in the divine cosmos, and that there is truly no death, especially when we remember their stories. I hope that you got somebody in your life who may not be physically here anymore, but they taught you something that you kept with you for a long time. It may not have been a good lesson to learn when you were learning it, but it's something that kept you, that made you stronger, that made you better, that made you wiser. Today, we are celebrating Black History Month in a powerful way. And the beauty of history is it keeps you, as Santana says, from repeating it, but sometimes it gives you a foundation that allows you to learn stuff without bumping your head all over and over again, if you just listen to folks. And that's the beauty of history. So today, we pour this special libation. We use a word that is a Yoruba word, Ashe. It means energy, essence, life, breath. So many wonderful translations, but it means power. So we say it, Ashe. All right, that's what we're going to say today as we pour our libations. In this space today, I want to pour a special libation for the energy of Brother Anthony J. Tony Sebron Adams, Ashe. And if you don't know who the man is, you'll know soon. Tony Sebron was not only a personal mentor, but so many of the institutions that you see in Nashville, Tennessee, I could list them, from the Sebron Journalism Center to the Third Eye newspaper back in the 1990s and 2000s, to the Tennessee Tribune, to the Metropolitan Times, to most of Black media. You can name 92Q, WVOL. You can name Black businesses on Charlotte Avenue. A ton of history that emerged from this one man's consciousness through a company he started called Access Med Plus. He actually wrote a framework that became the framework for TennCare, that eventually would become the framework for the Affordable Care Act and global health care. All of that out of Nashville, Tennessee. The brother was moving $50 million a month in revenue and making sure that the majority of that went to African American businesses. So much so that the state of Tennessee tried to take his business away from him and imprison him. And that's just what happens when somebody exhibits excellence. But his legacy continued. He moved to Africa, moved to Texas, and continued to shine up until day before yesterday when he transitioned from this space to life after life. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge him today and the life and energy of our greats who are living legends even among us now. Ashe. All right, let us pour our water. We say in this space, cool water, freshen our spirits. Ashe. Freshen and consecrate this house. Ashe. Freshen our collective ancestors all together. Ashe. We give praise to Almighty Mother, Father God, Divine Source, and all creation. Ashe. Grant to us peace and prosperity. Ashe. We pour to the energies of the North. And the North is the symbolic direction where we find our direction, and we commit to being a yes, to showing up as our authentic selves in the world today. Ashe. To the energies of the South, that remembrance of who we are, and always being able to balance our polarities in life and our dualistic nature at times. Ashe. To the energies of the East, where the rising sun comes, recognizing, y'all, that tomorrow is gone. You ain't getting it back, but you got another shot to do it right today. How awesome is it that we get to see, not only symbolically, but physically get to see the sun after the rain. Ashe. To the energies of the West, when the sun goes down, the divine feminine principle of the moon comes up, reminding us that even in the darkness, God always provides light for us. Ashe. To the energies of the sky above, recognizing that there's a space where we get to wander in our minds and see our dreams, and recognize that we're gifted to use that as a blank landscape to paint reality as we are. Ashe. To the ground below us, like a tree rooted by the water, recognizing that we shall not be moved. When we ground our roots, even when we sway in the wind and we bend, it's better to bend than to break, and that is the grounding. Ashe. Those are the 6 directions in the Lakota people's tradition, our First Nations people here. There is that 7th direction as well. It is the Grand Central Station where all those directions meet. It is the human heart. It is a space where our hopes and dreams lies, the power for us to manifest these things, and we acknowledge it now. Ashe. At this time, we want you to think about all of the people in your family, your friend circle who have transitioned to life after life, those you want to remember and commemorate in this moment. And as we pour these next few pours of water, we ask that you call their names aloud so we can welcome their energy into the space as we complete opening the way. If you're at home, you can type their names in the box. It's always great to look at the stream and see people talking about Grandma Ruth, and somebody said Cece, cousin Cece, didn't even know their name, but they remembered them. Sometimes our nicknames outdo our so-called real names, but our real name is who we are in the heart to each other. Let us call those names aloud in this moment. Ashe. Continue to call those names aloud. Yes, indeed. And to the children in the womb, world, and yet unborn, we say together, Ashe, 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 oh, it is done. It is done. As we open the doors and allow a few more people to come on in here, we want to refer to a pretty awesome quote here in Black History Month from the late, great Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian. If you ever had a chance to meet him, you know that he was a very bright light, lived to a ripe old age, and brought a lot of wisdom and a lot of energy into the space. And so we want to give you a brief quote of his that I want you all to think about today. C.T. Vivian said, when you ask people to give up hate, you have to be there for them when they do. Send one of them old ones there. When you ask people to give up hate, you got to be there for them when they do. Sometimes we want people to stop hating, but will you be there to love them? Oh, that's a message from last week, but we're here today. So, good morning, Infinity. Good morning. Let's do it again. Good morning, Infinity. Good morning. All right, we're going to ask you to rise to your feet. We're going to sing together our hymn, our congregational hymn that we sing. It's called Peace, Peace. We definitely have the words on the screen. I'm going to ask Sister Kenitha to come up and lead us, and we're going to keep it rolling. As we celebrate today on this wonderful third Sunday, today is the day that the God of your acceptance and understanding has made. It's a moment to rejoice, to be glad, to be joyful, and to recognize that we have the ability to speak things into existence. That's how we're the little c to the big C. So today as we sing, we speak into existence peace, love, and joy. And I'm so grateful that we have y'all there. So let's sway to the side. Come on, let's go.
Peace, peace, wonderful peace, enter my heart and bring healing to me. Oh, peace, peace, everlasting peace, let my peace shine bright so the world can see. Joy, 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 wonderful joy, enter my heart and bring healing to me. Oh, joy, joy, everlasting joy, let my joy shine bright so the world can see. Let's get some love. Love, love, wonderful love, enter my heart and bring healing to me. Oh, love, love, everlasting love, let my love shine bright so the world can see. Some more peace, 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 wonderful peace, enter my heart and bring healing to me. Oh, peace, peace, everlasting peace, let my peace shine bright so the world, let my joy shine bright so the world, let my love shine bright so the world, and let my peace shine bright so the world can see.
All right, we may be seated as our sisters Kenitha is coming for the statement of infinitude. How you doing today?
I'm good.
Oh, you look awesome.
Well,
all right, looks like you just had some celebrations recently. I love it.
Oh, okay, yes, I did. Finished performing. Yes. Are we going to bring up?
Yeah, well, it depends.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, Infinity, as I welcome you to the Infinity Fellowship. I remind you of the 4 core principles here at our gathering at Infinity, and we call that SNAP. So everybody do a little snap. There we go. The S in SNAP is for spirituality that transcends religion and connects you to the God of your own understanding. The N is for nurturing of ourselves and others, mind, body, and spirit. The A is for action, y'all, because we take action on our callings and walk in our divine purpose every day. And finally, this is important. The P is for the proof. We need proof that our spiritual practices manifest fruit in our lives through the building and maintaining of healthy and prosperous families, relationships, careers, and dreams, and so on and so on. We are so grateful that you all are here as unique manifestations of our Creator, the loving, living spirit of our commonality, the divine source of all creation, perceived by many names, yet known by only one energy. So this is the foundational practice of true interspirituality, where all are affirmed in love energy. So I invite you all at home and in this space to stand with me and join me in our statement of infinitude. We agree that we are beings of pure, eternal spirit, birthed from the creative potential of the universe, with all the powers of the Creator inherent within us. We embrace the innate goodness of humankind and an abundant creation that provides for us through the seeds that we plant in our everyday lives. We acknowledge that who we are is housed in a temporary biological organism, and as such, it is our responsibility to take care of it because it will only last for a precious window of time. As we nurture ourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, we commit to provide like acts of nurturing for our fellow brothers and sisters of the world we live in, embracing all regardless of religious faith, skin color, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic background. All are truly welcome at Infinity. We agree and accept that various religions exist as a unique opportunity for humanity to get to know one another through meaningful conversations that seek to explore the core concepts we share in common. It is the application of ancient wisdom, scientific discovery, and spiritual practices, both physical and metaphysical, that will lead us closer together as a human family. We commit to exist now and ever as a beloved community. Let it be so according to the many ancient terms of affirmation. Amen. Amen. Hotep. Shalom. Namaste. Ashe.
Hey, Ashe. That's our statement of infinitude. Remain standing because it's time to generate some gratitude. How many people grateful to be here today? Anybody not grateful to be alive in here? Anybody not grateful? Okay, I just want to check. I need to do a pulse check to make sure, because this moment of gratitude, one thing that you have, if you don't know about gratitude, gratitude is infectious. It is infectious ease. That's the difference between infectious ease and delightful things and infectious dis-ease. Right? So many of us want to fight infectious dis-ease, but we want to embrace infectious ease. And gratitude gets easier the more you practice it. So at Infinity, we like to say good morning to you. We're going to sing a song that says good morning to you. And then we're going to just take 2 minutes and find 3 people. Tell them what your name is and give them one thing that you're grateful for. And it could be really simple. You know, I could be grateful that I could button up my shirt today. And you never know. It's great. Try to talk to somebody who's having a hard time buttoning their shirt up and see what they would give to button that shirt up. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I've been there. So we're going to sing good morning to you. It's a simple song. All the words say is good morning to you. A good morning to you. A good morning to you. A good morning to you. Let us know where you are. We're sitting here. Tell us your name and give us one thing you're grateful for, all right?
to
Y'all got
you.
it? All right.
And we say, da 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 Hey, good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. And we say, morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. To you. To you. Yeah.
I say I'm grateful for coffee. We got that. Grateful for tea. We got decaf. We got all that in a minute. We got in a lot. We're going to take a break in a minute. We want to take that gratitude energy, though, and we're going to put it into our giving. This is when we take action. The basket here, it has an A on it. That A is for abundance, but it's also for action because abundance comes from action. And when we say at Infinity, what is abundance? What is prosperity? It is less the bling bling. Because here at Infinity, a rising tide lifts all the boats. Everybody's supposed to be doing well. And when we say abundance and prosperity, we define that very clearly. A healthy body, a consciousness that allows you to have work that is no longer work, but it's play because you're in alignment with your divine purpose. Healed relationships that work all the time, and you never have to worry about when you swipe your card at the grocery store having anxiety or whether it's going to clear. Right. So when we talk about it, we're speaking that out. So for those of you who have begun that practice of giving, you recognize that it is a powerful way to affirm that the universe is going to return that energy to you. If you have an opportunity to give and you practice lack, then the universe doesn't care whether you love it or not. God doesn't care if you practice love or not. All you're going to get is an abundance of everything. So whatever vibration you give out, you're going to get an abundance of it. If you give an abundance of giving out as your vibration, a lot is going to be given to you. If you give an abundance of lack, you're going to get abundance of lack back. That's how it works. So here at Infinity, we give in this moment. We give consciously in this moment and recognize that giving is a part of any sacred ritual that builds community and expands institutions. We are growing. We are expanding. We are doing some great things and great works. And as we continue to do great works, whether that was building Nashville's first micro home village, I got a call back from that. We did that in year 2 of existence with zero money, just crowdfunded it. And I got a call last week about somebody who wants to write an article because now the growing trend in Nashville and other cities is how do we build these micro home villages? And so when we started it, people said, that's crazy. Well, who would live in a little tiny house? Wow, now apparently everybody wants to live in a little tiny house. So we're going to continue to expand. In the back of our property back here, we are in the middle of our second phase of planning for our first housing development. We are going to be providing housing for creatives, for artists, for teachers, for younger people who cannot afford at this point to live in a city like Nashville, Tennessee. But we are going to boldly do and be the model for actually taking charge as a community and putting good in the world. So because of that, we don't do that alone. We do that because of you. Community puts this together. So we appreciate what you put into this space. We are good stewards of that. If you want to keep track of your giving, there are envelopes in the back. You can give via Cash App as well. You can give via PayPal electronically, and we'll put those slides up in a moment so that we can give. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we consciously give. And we give with love energy. So I'm going to invite everybody to rise to your feet. And as we prepare to give, we're going to give from the good space, the great good space. They used to say God loves a cheerful giver in church, Brother Williams, but then they would tell you that you were going to hell if you didn't give. I was like, I didn't like that guilt giving. We giving because we know it's good. We appreciate this breath and this energy. So we're going to supercharge it, and we're going to have our singing period with this, and we're going to love it. Everybody take a deep breath. Exhale and release. From the consciousness space, repeat after me and see how it makes you feel. Or repeat with me. Let's say it together. Yeah, I'm used to the call and response. I'm an old Baptist in the end. Let's go from the top. Oh, limitless, abundant creator, source of everything I possess. You have given me the gifts of life, breath, and creativity. You continue to provide for me without judgment or preference. And so I freely return these gifts to you with my whole heart, mind, and intention, knowing that as I give freely with both remembrance and gratitude, the circle of abundance will be unbroken. And so it is. Everybody repeat after me. Everything is good.
Everything is good.
Everything is good.
Everything is good.
I got it. I got it. I got it good. All right.
Everything is good. Everything good. I've got it. Oh, I've got it good.
Go on and get that groove.
We got the track. Hey, everything is good.
Let us give it this time.
Everything is good. Yes, it is. Everything is good. Oh, everything is good. And I got it. I got it. Oh, I got it good. Hey, everything is good. Yes, it is. Everything is good. Everything is good. Oh, everything is good. And I got it. I got it. Oh, I got it good. Hey, everything is good. Yes, it is. I said everything. Oh, everything is good. And I got it. I got it. Oh, I got it good. Hey, everything. Yes, it is. I said everything is good. Oh, everything is good. And I got it. I got it. Oh, I got it good. Hey, sing it with me now. Everything is good. Yes, it is. I said everything. Oh, everything is good. And I got it. I got it. Oh, I got it good. Oh, I've got it good. I got it. I got it. Oh, I got it good. Oh, I've got it good. I got it. Hey, I got it. Oh, I got it good.
All right, y'all. We got it. We got it. You may be seated. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We've got it good. We'll continue for those on home. We'll put up a slide with a QR code. We'll also put up a QR code in the corner. So I love it because we've grown to the place where we can have technology. We've got QR codes. I remember when QR codes were like this really nerdy thing that only a few people knew about. And now the sports associations in Metro have all adopted QR codes. You can go to a ball game. I remember this week, Kai's team was involved in a championship. They've been playing championships all week and all month and doing very well. Congratulations to my cheerleader. But they had the posters up outside. The only way you could pay was a QR code. And, you know, our folks, we don't like to be told that's the only way we can pay. So he's like, I got cash. I'll pay you double if you just take the cash. And people are like, no, you got to do a QR code. And the guy was out there, he's like, I don't know what a QR code is. Just hold your phone up. But you know what? After a couple of rounds of that, everybody started using the QR code if you want to see the basketball game. So that's the way it works. And we're grateful that we now have some QR codes for you. We also have a QR code for our visitors. If you're a first-time visitor, take a picture of the slide or hold up the QR code. If you're at home, you can do that too, because this gives us a chance or an opportunity to welcome you. We're going to send you a little thank you gift, a welcome gift, and a love note for you. So make sure that you take a picture of that slide. This is a reminder that if you have a standing ovation something great that has happened for you that we can celebrate, please fill out the forms. Sister Angie has them in the back. When we get ready to celebrate this and we're going to take a brief coffee break, stick them in the red jar here so that we can share these awesome standing ovations. Standing ovations are a very special part of Infinity. I'd like to say good morning again. My name is Jeff Obafemi-Carr. I'm known as Rev Jeff in the space here. And I want to welcome you all to the Infinity Fellowship. We are an interfaith and interspiritual community where people make the quantum leap from harsh religious doctrine into expansive and responsible spirituality. We like to say that we are the church for folks who don't like to go to church, but love to have a good community. So we are evolving and reframing what even church is. So again, if you're a first timer, feel free to take a picture of the QR code. And to our visitors, our first timers, this may be your first physical time at Infinity, but we like to let you know in this moment that we see the real you. We truly see the real you. If you're a first timer, we won't ask you to give your names or anything, but if you're a first timer at Infinity today, would you please stand at this time, just briefly? Yes, all right. Y'all give them a round of applause. And I will tell you all, as I'm telling people at home, if you're home first timer, type it in the box and Tony will say, hey, we don't see you as a human being who showed up today to have a spiritual experience. We see it the other way around. You're a spirit who's navigating a human experience just like the rest of us. So we like to welcome you in a special way. So if anybody's over here, we're going to turn to each other on this side. Everybody stand up and turn to somebody. And y'all can turn, yes, turn in here, backside will come over here. Sister Angie's gonna come down front over here in the corner and turn to you all. Turn to somebody and just look at them. And send the energy. See, yeah, Sister Angie's gonna welcome y'all. Yeah, y'all, there we go, we got it. And then you can just simply take a deep breath and relax and let it out. Look into somebody's eyes. I know it's tough because we've been taught and we've been socialized to fight when you look in somebody's eyes. But you look at me in the eyes, boy. But in this space, we recognize it's the windows of the soul. So we give you this affirmation with all the enthusiasm and love that represents who you are. Repeat after me. I see you, but you don't hear me though. I really see the real you. I see who you are. You are a divine manifestation of God's creation. I see what you are. You are a spirit. You're more than what's on the outside. You are a gift to me and to the entire world. I see where you are. You're right here in front of me, where I can let you know, if nobody else will, that you are not alone. I am with you, and you are at home. I see when you are. You're in the right now, baby. You are so much more than your yesterday. I see why you are. You're here to learn, to grow, to embrace your dreams, and to celebrate your divine destiny. I know all this because I'm here to do the same thing. So we're going to help each other out. All right? I know the real you, and I see you shining today. I feel you shining today. I know you're shining today. So welcome to Infinity. Welcome home. I say, oh, give a fist bump, give a handshake, give a high five. Our young people are headed downstairs. We can take a coffee and tea break. Our online people, I'm going to come back and read some shout outs from you in a minute. Say hello to somebody new. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your water. Come on back in. The young people are in good hands. I'm going to shout out some people online. If you have a standing ovation online, of course, make sure you type it in as we are in the space today. So excited. All right, we're going to shout out some folks online. Michelle Mayberry is coming in from Texas, y'all. She says, grateful for this space. Infinity Fellowship has blessed my spirit. Love y'all. We love you too, Michelle. Good to see the folks. Tanita's in the house. Happy Sunday, if family. Hey, Tanita. Brother Terrell, grateful to be picking up my wife from the airport. Okay, that's a moment of gratitude. How good and pleasant it is to pick up the wife from the airport. I love it. My name is Josh. I am from Nashville, and I'm grateful for my mom and dad. Good to see you up in Gallatin, Tennessee, son. That means you're watching. You heard us. We're sending the energy up there for you. We love you. Sister Felina, hello, if family. Grateful for all of you. Grateful that I slept well last night. That's all right. Grateful for love. We love it in the space today. Sister Tanita from Durham, North Carolina, grateful for life and good health and wonderful friends. Also grateful for my son's middle school basketball team winning their 5th consecutive championship. Come on, middle school championships. We talked about that. They had lost one game, and we were like, well, sometimes the loss will give you a lesson, and because of that. And I think they lost one game in 5 years, so that's kind of... Yeah, they needed that so they could get to the championships. And congratulations. Christina, good to hear from you again. Grateful that I am healthy, whole, and complete. Ashe, ashe. We also have coming in, I think that's what we got. Keep sending them in there. So right now it's time for our announcements. So we're going to bring up Brother Tony I. He's going to give us our announcements for today. Y'all give him some snaps or some love. Killing what's going on with Infinity.
Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. Don't you think I'm so that? I'm just so fresh, so clean. Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. I love when you stare at me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. Woo! Love the energy up in here. All right. Good morning, Infinity. And also, happy birthday to MLK. Let's go and snap it up or clap it up or stomp your feet, whatever you want to do. And in preparation for standing ovations, if you are an Infinite streamer and you have a manifest achievement that you want to report as a standing ovation today, go ahead and type into the chat box for us at this time. Not now, but... Not now, but... Yes, had to put some force into it, you know what I'm saying? So, a standing ovation is an accomplishment that you have made that we can shout out for you and let us know what good thing you birthed into the world by typing it in early. With that said, good morning, Infinity. And they just said it twice. Hold up. Here we go. All right, there we go. All right, they put down standing ovation twice. That's fun. Hey, it happens. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. This is what you call live, you know what I'm saying? We live up in here. That's how we do it up in here, you know what I'm saying? We just take it as it is, you know what I'm talking about? All right. Well, with that said, welcome to February, the second month of 2020. Trace. And this year is of transcendence. The definition of transcendence is to exist or to go beyond the range, to surpass, exist, or experience beyond the normal or physical level. Now, what a powerful concept for spiritual practice. This is the year that we rise together to the next level in everything we think, say, and most importantly, say it one more time. Thank you. Now, we invite you to empower yourself continually by speaking aloud our daily mantra for the year, which is even from the ashes I rise, which we'll say together. Even from the ashes I rise like a phoenix. So, the Rev Chat is live and going strong. Every Wednesday, join us on the Band app for a catch-up and Q&A with Rev Jeff. It's meditation, affirmative prayer, affirming conversations, and more. Now, this is a great opportunity to get to know each other, share best practices, and support each other with affirmative prayer and love. Join us on the Band app, and you have it. And if you have not joined the band, email us at infinitynashville@gmail.com for an invite. Next week is Yoga Sunday, and it will be virtual. So please do not come to the front door. Don't do it. So, spirituality must engage the soul, and that's what we do on first and second Sundays here with live music and powerful messages. Spirituality must also engage the mind, which is why on third Sundays, like today, we host If Teaches to encourage you to think deeply and consciously. Spirituality must also engage the body, and that's why on fourth Sundays, it's Yoga Sunday. That's right. Next week is our movie meditation Sunday service. Yoga Sunday has grown in size and scope, and next week you'll be able to focus on growing your personal practice from the privacy of your own home. Rev Jeff, in addition to being an engaged practitioner of ancient wisdom, is also a 200-hour certified and registered yoga instructor, which I can truly say myself definitely shows for itself. I'm telling you, it is definitely a workout. I'll say that much. So, he makes sure that everyone from all levels is engaged. We look forward to seeing you online next week, and note that as spring approaches, we will be inviting everyone back into the space on Yoga Sundays. For now, plan to clear that space at home. Roll out the mat and get ready for your monthly reset of mind, body, and spirit. And now, I'm going to ask leading lady Kenitha Carr and Rev Jeff to come back up to the microphone because it is a drum roll, please. Standing ovations. Wow. Thank you.
Tune your vibration to a high elevation. It's time for the good news, our standing ovation.
Yes. Our high energy at IF comes from our practice of snap. So it's why we snap our fingers during this part of the service. We receive practical lessons and tools for our individual journeys. That's spirituality. We fellowship with like-minded spirits every week. That's nurturing. We take what we learn and apply it in our lives. We talked about this. This is the action. And then when we were talking about the proof, this is the time. We see examples of that progress in our lives, and that's the proof. So let us pause to enjoy a collective moment of manifestation and expansion. So this is what's going to happen. When your name is called, you will stand as we read your manifestation, okay? And even at home, you can do the same thing as well. All right? When your name is called, after a person finishes saying their ovation, we're going to snap our fingers.
Snap, snap, snap.
But then at the very end, we're all going to stand to our feet and do a collective standing ovation for everybody's standing ovation.
Yes.
Couldn't think of my
Yes.
words. All right, so here we go. Brother Charles L. Trees. Woo!
Brother Trees, who's at the
He's
door
at the
right
door.
now.
We
He's
met him
standing
at
on
the
the
door.
door. Standing on the wall.
Okay, he says, I will be celebrating my birthday on Tuesday, 51.
Hey!
Hey! 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to ya. Here, Trees.
Happy birthday to ya. Hey,
Happy birthday. Yes.
Woo!
51.
Yes.
Yes. Fully
Oh,
grown.
Cassidy. So our kids, they like to put in their standing ovations, and they're actually watching
They're
it
watching downstairs.
Hey,
Hey, Cassidy.
Hi, Cassidy. All right. She says, I focused on my work in class, and I was able to get 2 A's on my assessment. I am very proud of myself, and my mom is proud, too. Yes, you are, Mommy. Go,
Yes,
Cassidy.
yes, yes.
You love Tanka.
That's what we expect from our geniuses around
I
here.
know.
All of y'all are geniuses, and we love it. Congrats, Cassidy.
Oh, Kamaria Carr. That's our baby. She was over there writing too. I was
I
like,
saw
okay,
her. I
here
didn't
we
know
go.
what she was working on.
Let's see here. The winter dance on Friday. She's so excited about her dance. Also, I got a B on my science test and a 97 on my math test, and she says, loving my life.
Come
Okay.
on through.
Go Smith! at the bottom, loving my life.
It's
I know
infectious,
that's right,
kids,
honey. I know that's
everybody,
right.
wherever you are, we pour into these kids. Always teach them that they're
Yes,
geniuses
Kamari,
from the
yeah.
beginning, and they celebrate that. That's exactly right. We love it.
Yes. Sister Alicia. Okay, Alicia says, this past week I celebrated 27 years of cancer remission. Woo!
Years.
Yes.
Yes. That is a standing ovation.
Oh, that's so big. And to many more years. I know that's
Yeah,
right.
I'm gonna
Yes.
run up Nocturne Drive in on your honor a little later
I
on.
know.
In my boots.
Yes. Okay, Lakeisha, Sister Lakeisha. Yes. Okay. She says, I'm taking on my new responsibilities and working through the growing
pains. There it
pains.
is.
I gave a virtual artist talk with 10 Arts Commission on Friday.
Yes.
Grateful for the opportunity to share my work and expand my reach. Go ahead,
Professor. Fisk University.
Yes.
Professor.
Diva, all the way.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then we got some online.
Yeah, I think we might.
Okay.
I'm
My
done.
standing ovation is that I finished our show. We did a show. It was a Motown musical celebration in Williamson County at their Performing Arts Center. And we did that on Friday. The house was full, 265 seats. We had a full band with strings included and trumpets and horns and all of that.
Lady Kenitha was one of the stars of the
Well,
show.
yes.
She got to sing all these Motown hits, bring people to her feet. She had on
the
this
wig,
amazing
the wig,
dress.
honey, like Diana Ross, short, baby, tapered in the back. Okay, silvery dress.
It was
okay.
already sold out by the time everybody made an announcement.
Yeah, they had
so-
sold out as soon as it was posted. They sold out like in 2 weeks. All the seats. So
yeah, and it was out
a
of
great
county, so it
evening.
was a different
Uh-huh.
event. So yeah, it is phenomenal. I was able to sneak in backstage and watch from the wings because it was all sold out.
It was.
And it was an amazing show. Yeah.
Yes.
And I just walked, you know how we do. I just walked up to the stage door and acted like I was supposed to be there.
Yes.
Nobody said anything.
No one said anything. He was sitting backstage. I'm kicking off my shoes, and he's like
And-
right there. Nobody
And
said
Demetrius, I
anything.
did something really wrong. I had a public confession. I saw this girl backstage come out of the dressing room, and for a second, I was like, okay. You know, I'm a human being, and I was like, oh, that's my wife. Oh, my God. What a blessing. She still got it.
No.
She still got it.
Oh,
Ain't
my God.
ashamed to admit it. Y'all, we
It
keep it real
better have
at
been
Infinity
me,
now. We
okay?
keep real.
It best to have been me, okay?
Had that little taper thing. I said, where's a nice little cut? There's a dress,
She
spangly.
was- that thing was fine, y'all. I'm wearing it. Be ready. I'm gonna wear it first Sunday, so y'all best to get
Yeah,
ready.
y'all best wear
That
it.
look-
So we're gonna take the lights to 50% because when she puts that on, it's gonna everything's gonna go.
I was like, Diana Ross up in there. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Online, did we have any online?
Oh yeah, let's see if we
Yes.
got any online. Yes, Rihanna Anthony is online. Hey Rihanna, I just received a $500 grant to provide Reiki for free for the LGBTQ clients by the Campaign for Southern Equality. Go ahead. Take that grant money in the space today. We love it. We love it.
Yes.
Okay, good. Everybody else online is just saying yes, congratulations, and fist power pumps and all that wonderful stuff. All right.
Okay, all right. So here's what we're gonna do. If you shared, go ahead and have a seat, please. While the rest of us are going to stand to our feet and give a standing ovation. Okay, are we ready? Yes. Here we go. All right, those are the standing ovations and announcements for today. So it is spoken, so it is received, and so it is Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh man. You know, as we come to the space here, I'm gonna clear the space and get out of the way because it's about time for our speaker. And what a great opportunity we have today. We're gonna sing a song first, but before we do that, I want to introduce our speaker. I am grateful to have in this space, as a standing ovation within itself, one of the city's leading voices in the world of history, space, place, community, and identity. Y'all, if y'all are new, we go crazy over good things that happen for folks because we recognize that if you can be excited about opportunities for other people, that's the energy that you draw to yourselves. So we're excited to draw together today our energy for one of our great teachers in the city. If Teaches, which is our third Sunday service, reframes church today. The knowledge is the message. So she or he who hath an ear, let them hear and then do. So allow me to introduce our speaker. Dr. Learotha Williams, also known as Learotha Williams Jr., PhD, is a scholar of African American Civil War and Reconstruction and Public History at the Tennessee State University, Big Blue. At TSU, he coordinates the North Nashville Heritage Project, an effort that seeks to encourage a greater understanding of the history of North Nashville, including but not limited to Jefferson Street and its historic relationship to the greater Nashville community. He has unified regional African American heritage societies under an umbrella organization called the Middle Tennessee African American Heritage Collective. This group connects TSU student researchers with societies seeking to study and celebrate Black history in their towns and communities, with an eye toward increasing the presence of Black history in our public spaces. Williams is also on the advisory council of the Harriet Tubman Center for the Study of Freedom and Equity at SUNY Binghamton. His most recent publications are I'll Take You There, Exploring Nashville's Social Justice Sites with Amy Thurber, PhD, Vanderbilt University Press, 2021, and A Balm in Gilead, Love, Hope, and Despair in North Nashville, in Murals of North Nashville, Vanderbilt University Press, 2019. He is currently working on a book with Serena K. Gilbert entitled A Daughter's Gaze, A History of Promised Land, Tennessee. Yeah, I know, you got a real Promised Land person here. My oldest daughter's family is related in Promised Land. There's a lineage up there with Lucy Carr and some of the Bowen family and everybody up there. That's part of my oldest daughter's lineage. He's a native of Tallahassee, Florida, where he earned his PhD from Florida State University in 2003. He also, which I think is great to mention, is an undergraduate of Florida A&M University, also known as a Rattlers. So we're great to have a Rattler in the space today. More than anything, he is a good brother. So we're going to bring these ancestors in with a communal song, Dr. Williams. And before we do that, I want you to give a round of applause in advance for our brother, Dr. Learotha Williams. Give us a big round of applause. All right, so we're going to take it back to the old days. Y'all know the song we sing on third Sundays. We're going to ask y'all to all chime in with us. Go ahead and close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. Think back to those old days, those wood floor churches, those spaces where you had to, the only time you got off was on Sundays, so you used it for organizing, you used it for storytelling, you used it to place your mind back in order, to get your mind right with God, to get your spirit right. And many people think that when we talk about going to a land, we're talking about a physical place after we transition. But reality is that land that we're talking about is a spiritual place. And when we hear our ancestors sing this song, it brings new meaning. So I'm going to invite y'all to sing it with me as we prepare the space for our message today. Goes like this. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound. Oh, ain't no hatred in that land. Ain't no hatred in that land. There ain't no hatred in that land. Where I'm bound, said ain't no hatred in that land. Ain't no hatred in that land. Said ain't no hatred in that land. Where I'm bound, oh, there is love in that land. There is love in that land. There is love in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound, there is love in that land. There is love in that land. There is love in that land where I'm bound. Oh, all of my people are in that land. All of my people are in that land. I said all of my people are in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I said all of my people are in that land. All of my people are in that land. Oh, all of my people are in that land. Where I'm bound. Oh, don't you want to go to that land? Don't you want to go to that land? Don't you want to go to that land? Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Oh, don't you want to go to that land? Don't you want to go to that land? Don't you want to go to that land where I'm bound? Ooh, take a deep breath there. Exhale, let it go. Y'all repeat after me. Come on, Brother Williams.
Good morning, Infinity. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you again. I remember last time I was here, we were talking about Brother Carr doing his revolutionary stage of his life. And quiet as it's kept, he's still very much a revolutionary, one that I admire. But today I'm here to talk about y'all. About you as Nashvillians and your role in making this city what it is. I called this lecture, Can These Bones Live Again? And it reflects some of my Baptist leanings. I don't know, I got to a point where it seemed like all my papers and presentations, just like, Williams, these are starting to sound like sermons. Yeah. But they are not. They are messages that I want you to consider when you think about yourselves. And I want to start out by saying this. Y'all are not who people say you are. You are much, much more than that. We haven't really conceptualized a word that can actually describe what you are and what you have accomplished in this space. So I want to get started with the show. I sent over way too much information to Jeff early on. But I got certain things I want to say, and then we'll get to the question and answer part of it, which I think is the most important part. Okay, let's get to the first slide, please. This is a tree off of Old Burkett Road out in Cane Ridge. And I went out there last week. I usually go to this tree every Black History Month because a 15-year-old boy was lynched at this tree in 1924. His name was Sam Smith. So I go out there during Black History Month with a bottle of water. I try to sing a hymn. Okay, this day, the day is past and gone. I ain't gonna sing for y'all today though. And then I'll pour out a libation and I'll speak this boy's name. I'm part of a group that's known as We Remember Nashville, and what we've been doing over the past couple of years is putting up markers at the site of all of the lynchings that occurred here in Nashville. This one is significant because we went through the process of getting the marker, but then they came at us with, okay, that's good, but y'all need to do this, 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 and this on top of that. And in my recollection, and I've been here since 2009, you know, there's never been a marker where you had to do this and then some more. So we had to have 5 community meetings. 2 of them were virtual. Met out there a couple of times. But at those meetings, there might have been only 3 African Americans there. Me and the people that I invited that showed up on that day. Nobody from Cane Ridge that looked like me. And I know that some of us live in Cane Ridge, right? But we were able to get this marker approved, and it's going to be put up hopefully within the next year or so. Kind of playing it close to the vest because we don't want to put the marker up real quick and then one of the construction trucks come by and knock it down, and then oops, we have to fight again. But that tree is still there. And the story is something that needs to be told, I think, because it's not just a reflection on Cane Ridge, it's much bigger than that. That lynching took place here in Nashville on December 15th. So if you do the math, that's 10 days before Christmas. So these folks did this to this boy. They shot him with a 12 gauge and 10 gauge shotgun, stripped him naked, and hung him from that tree. This story needs to be told. It needs to be told, though, through the eyes of the community that was impacted by it, right? Because when you think about it, that lynching wasn't really a message to Sam Smith. It was a message to every Black Nashvilleian. It was a message to the country because nobody was ever convicted of that, right? And on the day and the year that this occurred, a Black man in America was lynched like once every 8 days or so, if the math is correct. So you start thinking about that, it's a Nashville story, but it's an American story. It's your story, and you should be the ones that tell it. If you want to go out there and grieve, you should be able to do that because his folks didn't have the opportunity to do that. If I want to go out there and be inspired to continue to fight, where I look at that space and say, hey, Mr. Smith, I know they did you wrong, but I'm gonna fight to make sure nothing ever happens like that again. You should be able to do this. But y'all wanna know the weird thing about it, as I was going out there and I was singing my song, black birds began to light on the trees that were around me, and they began to caw, you know, and it was like, it's almost though they come here to bear witness to this moment. So I wanted to share that with y'all because I don't talk a whole lot about where I get inspired or inspiration to do my work. And sometimes I just have to listen and receive it from my ancestors, right? Okay. Next. One thing that I want you to remember is that your stories here in Nashville is not a recent story. Y'all have been here from the beginning. As a matter of fact, when James Robertson, John Donaldson, people that they probably taught you all about in school, once they pull up and they decide that, hey, this place over by Sulphur Springs looked like a good place to settle, y'all were here. Matter of fact, about 25% of all of the people in Nashville during the territorial period were African Americans. But if you can imagine what it must have been like for them when they arrived here, because they're coming from places where enslavement had been well established. Okay, they're coming from Virginia, coming from North Carolina. Those places have pretty well established slave societies by the time Robertson and Donaldson show up here. But when they come here, they are seeing a place that needs to be tamed. So if you can imagine them pulling up along the Cumberland River and, Robertson and Donaldson looking, it's like, okay, we're gonna do something with this. We're gonna make some money off this. If you're a black person, you gotta think about what they were feeling, what they were thinking. Because their mamas, their aunties, their families, everybody that they cared about was back in Virginia and North Carolina. And oftentimes think about how, wow, those were deaths in a true sense of the word. They're separated from these folks and they never expect that they'll see them again, at least on this side. And they come in here and they look at the hickories and the hawthorns and the cypress and the trees, and they see all of the river cane. And they don't see this place as a place of opportunity. They see this as a place that it's like, whoa, we're gonna get our backs broke clearing all of this land off. We are gonna have a very difficult life in this place that will become Nashville. Here in Tennessee, we have our fair share of tall tales. You know, we celebrate Daniel Boone, right? And Davy Crockett. Let me tell y'all something about this black man named Jack Civil who settled here. We don't know whether or not he was slave or free. We know that he's here and he's doing his thing along with the other settlers, and he's doing it expecting to be paid. But when James Robertson begins to read off the land warrants of the people that got land, Jack Civil's name was not called. So I can imagine him standing around, it's like, hey, you forgot somebody. But he didn't get his land. So he, on one occasion when they sailed down toward Donaldson to harvest corn, they are attacked by a group of Cherokee. Most of the people are slaughtered, but Jack Civil survives. And a curious thing happens. He joins up with the Cherokee, right? And they take him down toward Chattanooga. And he forms a society, he forms a community that has a curious name. I can remember coming up here from Georgia for the first time. You go, and some of y'all may can bear witness to this. You know, right outside Chattanooga, you'll see a place. I remember seeing that sign. It's like, that sign don't look right. A place called Nickajack Dam and Nickajack and the reservoir. And if you ride and it's your first time seeing that, you're like, that don't quite look right to me. But the place becomes known as Nickajack's Place. And according to the record, Jack Civil led raids against white settlers here in Middle Tennessee. And he got so proficient at it, he got so feared that Donaldson and others went down there to destroy Nickajack's Place, which they do. But they don't catch him. And he shows back up in Nashville, and He has one of these "that wasn't me" moments, right? He's like, I ain't never draw my gun on a white person, right? And he's incorporated back into society. So I said all that to say this. When it comes to these type stories, our people are included in them. More importantly, though, I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done when we talk about the relationship our ancestors may have had with the native groups that were here. Because they weren't all native fighters. Some of them looked around and said, hey, I'm gonna side with the native groups. Okay, and this is just a slide of Stones River. If you've ever been to the Stones River Greenway, this is there, and I like to, when I walk there, I like to envision that this is the site of the ambush where all of this took place. We celebrate Andrew Jackson in this city as a Native American fighter, a very interesting president. I live in Hermitage, so you can go out there and you can see Andrew Jackson in all of his glory. But Andrew Jackson enslaved about 136 people. And you gotta think about this for a moment. Whenever you visit one of these places, listen to the narrative, listen to the story that's being told, and bear in mind that black people represented the majority of the people that lived on this space. So how are they gonna tell the story without centering their experiences? And I got a question for you TSU alumni out there, or Fisk alumni if you're there too. Y'all people come here for homecoming and they're here for 4 days and they go back to wherever they came from. After 4 days, you can tell that they've been there, right? And I ain't a psychic, but I'm gonna tell you what's probably going on in your house. Refrigerator empty. All of your good liquor is gone.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
If you let them drive your car, ain't no gas in it, right? So if that's the case after 4 days, imagine being in a space where people made up the majority of the folks for generations. How are you gonna go out there and not see at least some evidence that they've been there? Well, here's a little historian trick for you. You go there and look at those bricks that are on all of these houses, on the smokehouses and so forth. You're gonna see fingerprints on them. And they'll be kind of odd, but those indentations are the fingerprints of your people who made those bricks first, and then the brick masons who laid those blocks. And this stuff was built, what, 1820s, 1830s? They still standing. And we have a hurricane, I flash back to Florida for a second. We have a tornado that come through here and just rip stuff up. So when they try to teach you that your people were uneducated or unintelligent, you push back against that and say that I can go to the Hermitage and see bricks that they made that are still holding these buildings up. I can go and look at the nails that were made by blacksmiths that are still holding these floors together. Another thing to consider, don't ever let them convince you that your people were out there by choice. If it were not for the gun, the whip, the knives, and the perpetual threat of violence, they would not have been there. Especially you go to the Hermitage, don't let them ever convince you that Jackson was a benevolent slave owner, enslaver. In my classes at TSU, I usually have my students read these to each other, because when you articulate these things, when you give voice to it, it adds a different type of power to it. But in this particular article here, Jackson is trying to recover an enslaved person that ran away. But he's also offering $10 extra for a reward, $10 extra for every 100 lashes any person will give him, up to the amount of 300. So he's not really interested in bringing this person back. He wants to punish them and to send an example to the rest of the people that they have enslaved out there. Okay, next slide, please. This is a project that I'm working on now, so if you see me out in the streets doing something, it's probably geared toward this. There's an island off of on the Cumberland River near Old Hickory. Y'all know where that bridge is that goes from, it's a green bridge that goes from Old Hickory into like Madison? All right, if you look to the left over there, you'll see an island called Hills Island, Hills, Hills Island. We don't know much about it, but we do know that it was owned for a while by the Donaldson family. And then later on by the Hill family. Hills became one of the biggest slave owners in America. So big that this guy was responsible for the push to create Franklin Pike, but he would later go on to New Orleans where his wealth would grow tremendously. But on this particular occasion, I was interested in what Emily Donaldson said about this island. She said that there was an enslaved man that her father owned. They called him Guinea George. Guinea George. He was probably from the Guinea country. And this was a black man that scared them to death. Apparently, George's teeth had been filed into points. And you know, that kind of body modification does occur in Africa. But George told those folks that he came from a part of Africa where they ate people. and he frightened them so much that they sequestered him to this island. And I can imagine them being kind of slick. He's saying, all right, I'm saying this to scare them, and they're going to put me over here and just leave me alone. I was fortunate this past year to get involved in a project with the Cumberland River Compact. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to have them take me out to the island. So it was me and one of my students. And I see one of my former students out there, Jasmine. She can attest to the fact that I sometimes drag my students with me. But we went out there and we were walking around and tried to reimagine what life was like for George. And my student says, Dr. Williams, you know, we probably the only black folks that have been out here since slavery. And that was really powerful for me. So it was important that if we were going to tell this story, that our voices resonate in the telling of this tale. Another thing I want you to consider as you look at this slide, bear in mind that enslavement was an individual act, but the city was not excluded from this act. Every person that you see on the screen here was owned by the city of Nashville. And as we go through this list, it gives descriptions of them. And I can remember a great professor telling me that, that these ads were pregnant with information. But as you look through this, you'll see, and I'm going to read this one about Charles and then we'll move on. It says 5 feet 9 inches tall, complexion black, large scars on his left elbow caused by a burn, long chin which projects downward, and toes on the right foot have been injured by being frostbitten. For me, when I read that, that represents a very violent experience, an experience where he was not properly cared for. And he's not the only one. Said all that to say this. Bear in mind that slavery was, it was an individual proposition, but by that same token, the city oftentimes was actively engaged in it. Okay, next slide. And the evidence for this is everywhere. This is a slave advertisement. Some of y'all might be old enough to remember newspapers with classified ads in it. Well, you can go to newspapers back in this day and time and see slave advertisements. And even when we consider these, it causes us to think about the overall impact that this experience had on both enslaved and free people in this city. I'll read this one to you. It says, notice, I will offer for sale on Sunday, the 7th of March next, at the Market House in Nashville on a credit of 10 months, a likely boy about 7 years of age. A note payable in the Union Bank with good security will be required. Sale at 11 o'clock. When I first read this, I thought about, wow, what sort of conversation did this boy have with his caretakers before that moment? Because we're mindful, for those of y'all with children and you send them to school, I can remember my mama putting me out when I was 7, she'd drive me to school and she'd say, boy, you be good today and I better not have to come back out here before 3 o'clock to pick you up. But you imagine the type of a conversation a mother or a grandmother would have. And I'll be honest with y'all, I couldn't really find the language to describe this, so I reached out to some of the social workers at TSU to find out what sort of behaviors you could expect from a mother who was losing their child that was very close to death. It was something that was very akin to death. Or a 7-year-old boy who is being separated. You're 7, but you're still young. You're not really sure about what is going on. So for that moment, I can imagine him feeling abandoned. I can imagine him feeling hopeless. But also further down the road, I could see maybe the inability for him to establish strong bonds, or anger. And sometimes anger is a righteous response to these situations. Okay, next one. Done a lot at TSU, but I think this is one of my most important accomplishments, and it's because I didn't do it by myself. I think the reason that it makes it so valuable. I was talking to my students basically about what I just spoke to you guys about, and one of my students from East Nashville. My students often criticize me. It's like, Dr. Williams, you don't show East Side no love in your classes. So if y'all are out there today, out east, I'm talking about y'all right now. One of my students from East Nashville said, I've been to school in Nashville my whole life, and I've never heard any of this stuff. How come they don't teach this to us in school? And I didn't have a response other than oftentimes our history is erased or marginalized and so forth. So she's like, Dr. Lee, I see you talking to these people on TV all the time, so why don't you write the marker? So I did. I wrote the marker, and I sat with them and I talked about, okay, where should we put it? And one of the students who rode the bus here in Nashville, they said, okay, right there at that corner, all right, y'all know where 4th and what used to be Charlotte is. The WeGo transfer point is right there. And they say, put it there. Thousands of people go by there every day. And that's where it sat. We had a very elaborate ceremony. I had this young Yoruba woman do a libation ceremony for us. Then I had my students, and everybody in that photograph is from Nashville except for me. But we stood there and we reclaimed that corner. Even the money that was necessary to pay for that came from the streets. And y'all don't need to know what part of the streets is, but I raised $700 on Jefferson Street, and I didn't do anything illegal. Okay, next slide, please. But that is, when y'all go by there, that is y'all's slide. That's y'all's marker. That is TSU's gift to the African American community here in Nashville. Okay. The second part is going to be a little bit lighter, I think. This is Fort Negley. Most of y'all know where Fort Negley is. You know where the Adventure Science Center is? It's right behind that. Fort Negley has recently been identified as a UNESCO site. It's associated with freedom. And it's a story that begins once the first Africans are loaded on these slave ships in West Africa during the 15th century to this moment in the Civil War. We look at it as part of that whole narrative. This is what I want y'all to understand, though. This fort was built from March of 1862 to December 1862 by conscripted black labor. So what that means is they went to places where free black folks hung out. And when I'm saying they, I'm meaning the federal forces, the Union Army. And they carry free black people to this site to build this fort to protect this city from Confederates. But a curious thing happens. Black folks in Middle Tennessee and Alabama and Kentucky, they hear about this site, right? And they try to make it there because they identify this particular site as their promised land. So in many ways, this site in Nashville becomes an Ellis Island of sorts. But for the African Americans that come here, they, many of them come here to find that, you know, the Union Army doesn't have enough tents for them. They come here to find that there's not a whole lot of food for them. So it must have been odd thinking about what freedom meant and then coming to a place where the only covering you have over your head at night are the stars in the sky. It must have been very strange for them to come here and realize, you know, that the child is getting sicker and might not recover from the sickness. But that said, these people did not come here empty-handed. They came here with their culture, with their notions of what freedom meant to them. So when you think of culture, you know, they have these songs in their hearts, the songs that they lifted up from the cotton fields and the tobacco fields here. They come with this notion of what it means to be free. I know what my masters think free is, but my definition of freedom is a bit different from theirs. And all of these, and y'all listen to me now, all of these ideas that they have, all of these things that they bring with them, help to create the Nashville that we know today. So when y'all talk about Nashville as the music city, it wasn't the, you know, they had some music, but it wasn't hidden until you heard those songs coming up out of the Baptist and the Methodist and the AME churches and so forth. It doesn't have any sort of international appeal until those Jubilees start singing it. Doesn't really, not really codified or put into stone or made flesh until R.H. Boyd starts a publishing company. He says, okay, all these songs we singing, we're gonna put these in books, and y'all going to learn these songs like our ancestors sang them. And we'll give you some Bibles and study materials that you can use to use for your churches. It doesn't become the Athens of the South until Fisk opens his doors, until Roger Williams opens his doors and Walden opens his doors. And then later on, Central Tennessee, which will become Meharry. And y'all think about HBCUs, you know, and I teach a class on HBCUs in the fall, and it's real interesting because there's always some conversation about who got the best band or whatever. I ain't got no comment on that other than I'll just flash this at you. And if you know, you know. Our city has consistently had 4 HBCUs throughout its history. Consistently. So you can't describe us as the Athens of the South without bringing that into account. Okay, next slide. This is probably the most relevant part of this conversation, and that is anytime we make gains in this city, there's always been some pushback. Sometimes it's violence. More oftentimes than not, it's violent. This is a slide that describes a man that was run off of his property and he decides to go to Nashville for sanctuary. But along the way, he sees the body of an African American that has been brutalized. And y'all can read this for yourselves. But I've said all that to say this. Anytime there's some forward progress, there's going to be some backwards progress. At TSU, and I'm not just saying that because I'm there, but right now we probably got the best quality historians that the university has ever had. And as a matter of fact, I will put our department up against anybody in this state. We teach, you know, people talking about teaching African American history, having one course or not every semester. I think this semester we got 5. So every student there that wants to take Black history, you can. Okay, next slide, please. Another thing to consider when you think about the history of Nashville is the role of the women in this city. This photograph is a photograph of the Tennessee Federation of Women's Clubs. And oftentimes when we think of women's club, you might think, well, they get in there and they might be gossiping a little bit. And don't throw that at me. Or you got a knitting circle, it might be playing bridge, but no, these sisters were getting together and they're trying to think about the best way for the race to progress. So you have women here who are feeling like they're saying, hey, if we're going to elevate the race, we need to reach out to the poorest Black women in the community, thinking that if we can elevate them, because our mamas are our first teachers, right? The entire race will benefit. This photograph was taken in front of First Baptist Church when it was located on 8th Avenue in the corner of Charlotte. They torn that building down, and there's a big parking lot there that never have any more than about 5 or 6 cars. And every time I go by there, it is very upsetting that they torn down a landmark for a half-used parking lot. Okay, next. One of the most outstanding women to ever call the city home was a lady named Nettie Napier. Most of y'all heard of J.C. Napier, right? His wife was bad too. She's responsible for saving Frederick Douglass's home up in Anacostia when it seemed as though it was going to be demolished. But she comes here to Nashville and she creates something called the Day Home Club. And this club, which initially was in North Nashville, but now it's on South 4th Avenue right across from Rocketown. This club was created to meet the needs of single working Black women, single working Black mothers. So you think about what you need as a mama if you're working, right? You need childcare. Okay, this Day Home Club provided round the clock childcare. So if you work first shift, second shift, third shift, you could get it there. She brought in teachers to teach the children after school. And we know we need our after school programs, right? But also, she brought in a nurse, a doctor, excuse me, named Josie Wells. She was a Meharry grad. She brought her in. This lady provided free health care for the children that were there. I need y'all to think about something. All those things that I've discussed are civil rights issues, right? All of those things. These are women in Nashville who are thinking about that before we even have an NAACP. So if you want to understand the history of this city, you've got to look at the black women in this history. Next slide. Next slide deals with memory, or really amnesia, what we remember, what we forget. When you look at this, that slide on the right is a photograph of the Woodland Street Bridge. For all y'all Titans fans out there, y'all probably walk across that bridge at least 8 times during football season. But it's also one of the sites of one of the most brutal lynchings in this city's history. A brother named Ephraim Grizzard was lynched from that bridge in 1892. And the thing about it was that the sheriff said that if anybody said anything positive about them or tried to do anything to help him, the same thing was going to happen to him. So we put a marker up there to remember this. And I included this slide because of our current conditions in Tennessee, where it seems as though to talk about African American history or to suggest books that discuss African American history that are sympathetic to the plight of black people can cause you to lose your job, or you can have a bunch of insane people screaming at you and so forth. So this sort of violence, this sort of terrorism is part and parcel to our history. But the thing about it, if nobody ever talks about it, then it will soon be forgotten as well. That makes sense? So you need to start thinking about who's in charge of our memories, who determines what we remember or what we forget. And I humbly submit to you that a lot of times it ain't people that look like me or you. A lot of times I'm the only one in the room. So that when you see these issues come up, it's important to let your voices be heard. It's important to at least let them see your faces. Because it escapes me, I think it was Zora Neale Hurston said that, you know, if you're silent, they will kill you and say that you enjoyed it. Okay, next one. Okay, I'm about finished. April 19th, 1960 is one of the most important days in this city's history. And I argue in my classes just as important as when Robertson and all looked at the shores of the Cumberland and said this would be a good place to settle. This was the day that Attorney Z. Alexander Luby's house was bombed. The blast was so great that it blew out the windows across the street at Meharry Medical College. I say that this is important because of the response. In response to this bombing, students met at Tennessee State University. C.T. Vivian talks about how they went to TSU and went to Elliott Hall. And for those of y'all that are familiar with Elliott Hall, that's our women's building. That used to be and it's the home of the art department too. There used to be the cafeteria back in the day, so they go there and they recruit people. They recruit revolutionaries, people that are saying, hey, we're gonna change this one way or another. We need to talk to the mayor. So he goes there, he goes to Boyd Hall, and he and Bernard Lafayette are able to round up 1,500 people. And they meet at the airplane, that's Keene Hall. They meet there, and then they march downtown. And so by the time they get downtown, about 3,000 strong. Oh, I just said 1,500 of them met at what? TSU. So if you're gonna tell that story, you got to center TSU and their students in the argument, because I humbly submit to you, wow, that most of those folks that were sitting on those stools during the sit-ins, they paper got the same thing Reverend Carr paper got in terms of being graduates. Okay, next slide. And now this photograph, and this is my last one. This photograph of a history professor, McDonald Williams, and his wife, and other folks from the community who realized that the interstate is coming through North Nashville. So what they do is they meet and they literally stand in the off-ramp. And this moment is a very powerful moment of protest, because you have the citizens who are literally standing up against the powers that be, saying, y'all are gonna do this, but you're gonna know how we feel about it. So they ultimately would decimate that community, but it wasn't gonna be on that day. So I'll close in saying this. It's still trying to come at us in a multitude of ways. And I'll be honest with you, the people that don't have our well-being at stake, the game has gotten a little slicker now. But it requires us to maybe to deepen our analysis of what is going on around us so that we can come up with the proper remedies. For example, if I tell you I got a headache, you might give me some aspirin and that might help. But the headache is caused by a brain tumor. The aspirin ain't gonna do me any good. So the only way we're gonna figure out what the proper problem is and then develop the proper cure is to make sure our analysis is complete, is accurate. And maybe we can come up with something that can help alleviate what is bothering us. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and now for the best part of the program, the question, the Q&A.
Oh man, there's so much to unpack in that. How many people learned something new they didn't know about the city of Nashville? Raise your hand. That's great. That's just about everybody. And Dr. Williams, I want to congratulate you and thank you publicly, because being a historian is often, and being a professor is often a thankless job, especially at a state institution. And I speak from a pastoral experience. We share the thankless positions, but we do them because we're called, and that's a beautiful space. I noticed, real briefly, and then I'll open up the floor for questions. If you have a question or comment, we're going to get you this mic over here, and Tony will bring it around to you, and so that you can get it. But I noticed, I was thinking when I was reading the bio, and I was listening to some of the titles of your presentations, and you already alluded to it, but I just want to unpack that a little bit deeper. When I'm teaching a world religions class here, as I do probably yearly at Infinity, we talk about the concept of eschatology, the doctrine of the end times, good and evil battle, resurrection, all of that, restoration, that came out of Zoroastrianism and eventually Judeo-Christian theology. This concept of eschatology that you find in Ezekiel with the dry bones in a biblical story. So this concept of things coming back to life. What sparked you? What's the connection that inside you that sparked you? Because obviously this is thematic with you, and it's a beautiful thing. But what sparked you for this particular work and presentation that you spoke on today, connect that to that Valley of the Dry Bones?
One of my backgrounds is historic preservation, and one of the things that really attracted me to just the study of African American history is our transition from enslaved to freed people. So when I got here, I looked at North Nashville and understanding that neighborhoods go through life cycles, the same thing as human beings, right? They are born, we build them up, they reach adolescence, then they become old communities, and then they die or they become something else. So one of the questions that I asked was, well, who's in control of what it's going to become? When we look at North Nashville, and this is true of Edge Hill and the east side of town too. The spaces that were occupied by black people, they were not there accidentally. Although the contraband camps were created and people moved there and then ultimately move into these communities, there are decisions that are being made that guide people to these communities. And you see it at Fisk. Once Fisk opens its doors, if you go and look at the ads, immediately you see neighborhoods coming up near Fisk. Then with the coming of Hadley Park and TSU, like, okay, we got these spaces near these up and coming institutions, so people flock there. Was always interested in just how these communities came to be and whether, there was ever any intent or hope from the city that they would survive. Sometimes I think that they put these things in place thinking that we're gonna fall in or we're gonna collapse, but this is the case with North Nashville, you transform that into something tremendous. But then there's the death aspect of it. Sometimes you die of natural causes. Sometimes it could be a traumatic experience, like the interstate. Or sometimes it could be a slow death, and that could be the result of maybe things like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, with the gave us options. And that would on the surface seem like a good thing, but at the same time you got to realize that a lot of the forces that sustain the community are being drawn out. Our community, and I'll say this, and I'll pause. North Nashville experienced all three, but the only one of them that they actually had some control over was the Civil Rights Act. Everything else was forced on them.
So in some way, we were looking, I think about integration. We think about, because I'm from Nashville, but I also have a unique space. I was the second generation. So not really the first generation. I had some older cousins who were in pictures at the downtown Civil Rights Library. You'll see my Aunt Mary down there taking my cousin Ethel to school, and maybe Hattie Cott in one of these schools that they integrated. And they were 10, 20 years older than us, but we were part of that first generation that was then bussed out. And I remember getting to be an adult in Nashville and hearing elders talk about things that they felt were bad that I thought were great. So they would talk about Pearl High, North High, Cameron, and how they had top basketball team, choir that went internationally, dominant football team, high achievers academically who got scholarships. They went to TSU, they went to Fisk, they went to HBCUs. And then they would say to me, and our teachers gave, we didn't have the best books, but our teachers gave us so much love, and they lived across the street, and the pastor lived on the corner, and we had a store down there, and they would list all this, and then they would say to me, but y'all got it good. Y'all can go out in the Green Hills for school. And I was like, that's not good. I remember being in the class as a black child, raising my hand and being completely invisible. And having an antagonistic relationship with teachers. In 5th grade, I ran away from school because a teacher looked at me in the eyes and decided I was being defiant and completely lied on me. And the only justice I could get, I felt like it was plantation justice. I got to run, freedom. And so, but I looked at that and I said, so it is fair to say historically that, yes, we got to integrate in places, but we may not have gotten the good end of the stick on that because of what happened to our communities as a result.
I'll give you a good metaphor. I was talking to, I can't remember if it was Kwame or somebody, but Kwame Lillard. But he's like, man, we was trying to integrate those lunch counters, and we got in there and the food didn't taste like nothing.
What a great one. What a great one.
But I can, but
That's perfect.
our best teachers were often shipped out to other schools where they remain great teachers. Whereas the mediocre teachers were often brought into our spaces, and that was detrimental. I don't know, and it's an interesting thing to think about, because I oftentimes think about the better things, but also think about the dehumanization that you faced in segregated America. One of the most powerful stories, and some of y'all can talk to your people about this if they're still with us. Going downtown and having to use the bathroom in the alleys, or going downtown and being a son that is protected of the mother, seeing them handle your mama in and every kind of way. But I do think the sense of community that we had, that we built over generations, was something that was necessary for us to even survive that ordeal. But integration came at a cost. We have access to more spaces, but I say this as a child, you and I are about the same age, I think. Some of those spaces ain't worth integrating into.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right, so I'm gonna open up the floor for questions. If you have a question, Tony, if you grab the mic, because I know a couple people may have one, and then we won't keep you long, Doc, because you've given us a lot to think about as we're passing that mic around for a question or comment or observation.
Please tell me your name.
Yes,
So
let us know your name so we got you, and we'll have your voice on the record here for the streamers here. And if you have a question, the streamers, Tony, you're probably going to have to read it out for me because I don't have my monitor over here. One thing that I see, though, Doc, I see a pattern that's interesting. When we talk about Hill Island, is that the H.G. Hill family?
Yeah.
Okay, so if y'all shop at H.G. Hills, and when I was coming up, my older cousin Harold and his brothers worked at H.G. Hills, and H.G. Hills had they had a unique and special way of doing things. So we would shop there sometimes, but all the cashiers were white, and everyone that bagged and carried groceries to the cars were black, young black men. And it was much like that at the Bell Mead cafeteria back in the day. And if y'all remember that on out by Bell Mead and on White Bridge Road, off right there, and it was the same thing. You had that food being prepared, but then all of the service on the table, they would hire specifically and only elder black men. And so these patterns of where we are, I think about H.G. Hills, and I think about this, realty and about land. What many people don't realize is a few years ago when we had that transit plan being proposed, many people thought it was about helping people, but the reality is black, poor people, elderly people were going to pay higher taxes. The trains were going downtown, but along the routes and the corridors where all of the transit centers were being planned years before, those major corridor places where there were going to be upscale condos all along. It was a real estate development deal. All of those places had been pre-bought over the years by the H.G. Hill family. It was one of the largest owners of real estate still in the city of Nashville. So to think that this goes all the way back, when you hear these family names.
The ancestor was Harry Hill. He owned property all over downtown, and I was so taken aback that I had hardly read anything about him. But the Sheridan that's across the street from the War Memorial Center,
Flying Saucer building.
Yeah, that was where his place was. But he goes to New Orleans where he and a group buy out Isaac Franklin. And you're thinking Isaac Franklin, all that money you see that today is Belmont money, right? This is one of the wealthiest guys in town that I hadn't heard anything about him prior to me working with him.
Wow. It's in there. Legacies and legacies of how things. And I got another pattern that I realized, but I know there's some questions. We want to get to those, so we won't stay too long today. Questions?
My name is Denise Edmondson Knowles,
Nice to meet you.
and I'm taking everything in my strength not to cry. We live in a state where our children still can't be taught anything that makes other people uncomfortable. This makes me uncomfortable. Born and bred in Dixon County, and that all I know is what my grandparents taught me. My dad is still there in Promised Land. Serena just came back. My daddy's been there. I grew up there.
So you knew Miss Essie then.
And my grandmother was Betty Ruth, yes. My granddad and Uncle Robert, Aunt Essie's husband, were brothers. But I grew up there. Many people are now coming back to the country. I grew up there with the June bugs, tying a piece of thread around the leg and swinging them around. But my heart is beating through my chest right now. Because what do? I'm 50. My kids went to school here in Nashville. My grandchildren are going to school here. I don't know what to teach them, and I really don't want them to wait to get to Tennessee State University to take your class. My son attends a Montessori school, and it's one of the greatest things that I was ever able to do, because Miss Amani teaches and allows them to learn as they learn, and they become independent. But they still need to know the so-called freedom that we have today, because we really still don't have freedom. Gentrification is rampant. They need to know. I need to know. And I mean, I don't know as an individual what to do, how to learn, where to go. I'll be calling your phone every day talking about Dr. Williams, what's next? Because so many people think, oh, we're in 2023. That stuff needs to be left in the past, this, that, and the other. You don't know what has already occurred. It's gonna come back. Uncle Kwame told my daddy, get her out of Dixon. Get her away from there, because I knew nothing. And it just to think of the brutalities that take place today, the brutalities that took place back then, like what do I do as an individual person? Because when you were speaking, I feel it. I physically feel it. And I'm like, Lord, these people gonna think I'm crazy because of these tears. But I felt about the skin being torn. I feel it, and it scares me. It scares me because so many of us, I was born in 72. I think I was born in freedom, but was I? So I'm sorry.
No.
Thank you, Denise. Pass that back to Tony. He'll find it. If anybody has their hand up, Tony will note you.
Couple of quick responses. Your reactions are perfectly natural and justified. I can remember one semester in grad school, my advisor, he came to me and said, like, Lee, we're gonna do a readings course this summer. I was like, all right, it's gonna be a good thing because I love to read. But he had me reading KKK reports, and I had to read like a book a week. So I'm in the sub-basement of the library, fighting back anger, fighting back tears, and it got to the point to where I couldn't even read that stuff until Wednesday night. I'd go there Wednesday, and I knew that about 5 or 6 o'clock, I'd head on over to the church for a prayer meeting so I could kind of get my head back straight. But one thing that's different now than was when you came up, we got a lot more resources now. So I'm speaking this to you and everybody else in this room. We put together a book called Profiles of African Americans in Tennessee. And it represents about 42 years worth of scholarship. And it's just a book about Black people in Tennessee. I don't know if I can get my hands on a hardbound copy of it, but if y'all got a computer, you can download a PDF version of it for free. And it's Profiles of African Americans in Tennessee. And what I'll do is I'll send the link to Reverend Carr.
And I'll send it in the group. I'll put it on BAM. Get it directly.
Get it and send it out to everybody you know. Because work is work about our people, and it is edifying and it's solid scholarship, because everybody in there who've written for it was a person who had a profound love of African American history and advanced degrees, so the scholarship is on point. So you read something, you can literally take that to the bank. Okay, so thank you for your question.
Yeah, that was great. History, and I add to that, Denise, is love is an emotion. So is joy. Also, so is anger. And we often try to equate them, not equate them, but it very much is. And I found that you study history, yes, it can make you mad. It'll literally piss you off. And so I always ask the question, whether you're feeling exhilarated and lifted by love or whether there's anger and frustration, the question is, what are you going to do with that? Because it's all emotional fuel. Some people will take anger and allow that to become internalized, and that becomes depression. It becomes a paralysis of analysis. It becomes a room that you lock yourself in, a prison, a hell of your own creation, and you spend so much time locked up in your own thoughts that you are paralyzed. Other people take the anger and say, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to put my child in a certain school. I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy certain books for my children. I'm going to go out and I'm going to build some housing for our people since I have land. I'm going to meet up with 4 or 5 other people, and we're going to make sure that whether we got to pull money from the university or we're going to pull money from our pockets or we're going to go down Jefferson Street and get this money, we're going to make sure that we're going to ourselves. Even if we have to go through 5 community meetings, we're going to put the markers out there. So it comes down to what I have found to be a good practice is, if you take the anger, the rage, the frustration, the history lessons, and put them into something positive where you're building and leaving something into the world, that is alleviated. That fuel is then invested in good things. And the reason why it's important to have ancestral memory is sometimes we think you got it bad, right? You think you got it bad. Organizing 100 people with a microphone in your hand and a bullhorn. But you imagine people organizing 1,000 people with no electronics and just their voice running from door to door. All of a sudden, I'm a little grateful that all I got to do is turn on my microphone and flip open my laptop. When you think about the history lessons of the people that we see who lived through unbelievable circumstances, and I think about the Napier family and that story about Nettie that I did not know, I was not familiar with, but the Napier family, J.C. Napier, you hear a lot more of, and there's comments about that in society with men and women. But to think that they were living in Nashville at a time where people were coming out of blatant discrimination. You would get killed for looking at somebody the wrong way. You couldn't try on a dress in a store, and yet still she creates a day space where Black children and mothers can feel safe. That's remarkable to me. And so that pattern continues to this day, because one pattern I noticed here, Dr. John Henry Clark, one of the great ones, he once said, all history is a current event. And the first little boy that threw a rock in the ocean on the west coast of Africa is still influencing the waves that are crashing on the east coast here in America to this day. When we talk about history being a current event, I think about how politics works in Nashville. And I'll be very frank about this. I hope y'all don't mind, but fortunately I don't owe anybody any money, so there's not much anybody can do to me. Punishment of people who operate outside of the structure. African Americans who are owned by the city of Nashville. These are things that you talked about happening 200 years. There are still African Americans who are owned by the city of Nashville. There are still movements that are suppressed by the city when you go too far. There are still people who are rewarded for good behavior, and there's still people who are made examples of. So this seems to be a template for how things operate systemically in the city. And if you recognize that template, you can understand and figure ways to work through it. And perhaps that's the benefit of history itself. Are there questions more right out here, Tessa?
I had the same question as Denise, so you answered that. So my comment is to thank you for the work that you're doing and the seeds that you plant in your students around the community, and being able to take, because being a historian is hard. Like, I was on the historian track, and even reading all those stories and newspaper articles and clippings is emotional. It's emotionally difficult. So being able to take that energy and transmute it into something positive to benefit the community, I just wanted to give you your flowers for that and say thank you.
That's great. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Doc. Yes. Yes. Good one up front, Tom. And thank y'all. Thank y'all for passing the mic, because there are tons of people online who benefit from these questions too.
Well, hi, my name is Anik, and I do want to thank you for all that you've done and all that you're doing and will do. And I would like to know, where's the, I don't know, are there any like library databases that you utilize? I know that they offer a lot, and there is a slave register there for the 1,400 or so slaves that were enslaved in Nashville, but is there anything else that you offer?
It depends on what topic interests you, because yes, there's a lot of sources. If one of the things I like to have my students look at is they have a transatlantic slave database where they actually track every single vessel that came across the Atlantic. The Freedmen's Bureau records have been digitized through Family Search, but they're not indexed though. So it's one of those things that if you you get involved in it, and it can eat up a whole lot of your time. I do quite a bit of research on Ancestry, but it ain't the free version. I actually pay them something for all the database, but the state of Tennessee has access to it too, so you can go to the archives and look at it through that. And even though it deals with genealogy is oftentimes the gateway into history. My foray into history was just listening to this will be my last story, I promise.
No, you got some good ones, brother.
My daddy is from South Georgia, and he used to boast we'd go home, and he'd boast that he planted all those pine trees that we see out the window. And I'm talking miles of pine trees. And he's like, you planted all those trees? I said, yeah, ask your Uncle Charles. And so next time I saw Uncle Charles, I said, Uncle Charles, Dad said he planted all those pine trees along the highway. He's like, that's what your daddy said? And I said, yeah. He's like, he telling you a story. I planted those trees. But just those stories and trying to think about what they experienced. Genealogy adds some insight into that. And as I delve further into it, I'm like, wow, I am blessed, fortunate, whatever you want to call it, to even be here sitting here talking to you all today about it. So there's that. I also check out chroniclingamerica.org. And they got a newspaper database there. And the only thing, and this would be really interesting for y'all that are from Nashville, look up those newspapers from Nashville, then type your family's name in it and see what comes up. If you do it for Carr, you're gonna come up with a brother named Benjamin Carr, who's responsible for Hadley Park. Hadley Park wouldn't be there had it not been for him. I don't know, you didn't give me your last name, but if your folks have been here for a minute, type it in and see what comes up, because it's amazing stuff that's there. I remember, and I didn't mean to point at you, I'm sorry. Aunt Kay, Miss Serena, asked me to do some work on Promised Land. I had forgotten all about it. But then it was the middle of the night, I was looking for something near Cumberland Furnace. And I came up with the church that was out there in Promised Land. They were celebrating Emancipation Day, so it was New Year's Day. And I sent it to her, and she called me almost with a shout, talking about, this is my grandfather, my great uncle, and so forth. So your people are in the record, but we just don't know where to look. Can you imagine what it does for you internally, just your state of mind to realize that your people did great things before you were even a thought, or they did great things with the anticipation that their granddaughter was going to come on the scene and do greater things.
My grandfather had a juke joint. They called him Jumping Jim.
Okay, I'm gonna connect with you because we are seriously working on that book, and we're hoping that it'll come out within the next year or so. But it's gonna be something revolutionary because we haven't, to my recollection, ever partnered academia with a community like Promised Land, which is unique in and of itself. But it'll be the women's voices who's telling the story. I'm along for the ride to make sure the history's straight. But it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's probably the best thing I've ever done as a historian.
That's great. And that's saying a lot, brother, because you put a lot of good things into the world. Do you have any more questions out there, comments, before we move it to a close and give a final statement? Okay. All right, great. Great comments coming in online also, just affirmations of what we're hearing here. This is one of Doc's recent books. I'll take you there. It's a wonderful book. If you hadn't had a chance to get it. I got it and kept mine preserved. I still got the receipt in it because I needed to get a personalized autographed copy. So I kept this preserved all through COVID to make sure that as soon as I saw the brother again, I could make sure he's gonna sign this before he leaves. But that. What you said and what you've given us today, Doc, it's been very, very spiritual, as well as historic. And that's a beauty, and I'm grateful for this community here because this is what we're going to do. You don't separate history from spirituality, from sciences all together. And dedicating a Sunday to learning these lessons has benefit for everybody. It fills those spaces. With all the debates that are happening now with blocking Black people's history and other people of color's history and Indigenous people's history, and then trying to frame it under something that is an academic concept, critical race theory, that has nothing to do with the instruction that's happening in here. With all of that, we need more spaces to do things like this. We need more spaces to hold space for the teaching of history, because it's not just inspiring, it's logical. You want to know You want to have an understanding of knowing. The more you know about yourself and the more you love yourself, you have more appreciation for other people. So I want to thank you for coming and give you an opportunity to just wrap it up. If you want to give us a final statement, well, where can we look for you next? What do you give us in terms of advice to keep studying and digging deep? You've already given us so many great tools. What would you say to wrap this thing up? And to answer the question, since bones are basically infrastructure, and when you have the infrastructure, you can build the superstructure. So I can ask you to close us with answering the question, can these bones live?
They can. And I don't want to delve too much into my Baptist background, but just since when we look at that interview that God had with Ezekiel, you found that that wasn't a rhetorical question. He told that man to prophesy. That is, he required him to do something to make those bones come together. And I don't know why this song popped in my head. Y'all remember we used to sing the heel bone connected to the leg bone and all that, and hear the word of the Lord. It requires some work. This state of prophecy requires some work. It requires you to learn. It requires you to listen. It also requires you to share what you know. Even as a historian, I don't know everything, but I do have a close circle of people that I can step to and ask if I am understanding this correctly, or if I'm saying something correctly, or if there's something that's missing. All of that is needed to make these bones flesh. I encourage y'all to look at my university as an asset. We got some of the baddest historians in the game right now in my department. Reach out to them with your questions. And you got my contact information. I'll have an answer for you. If I don't have an answer for you, I'll be like, okay, you need to talk to Dr. Ewan or Dr. Brown or Dr. Ringer or some of my colleagues that can help you out. But just be encouraged and be mindful of the fact that we've never lived in this country where they hadn't tried to control our history. There's never been a time when they didn't try to limit the sources that we use, or even the places where we can speak it, right? I'm really interested in public history because what it does is it makes the world a classroom. Ain't nobody regulating those signs that were put up that talk about Nettie Napier or the slave market. I reach a greater audience there in a couple of hours than I will all year at TSU. And just in this medium here, I don't know how many people are logged into this, but it's probably most people will hear my voice in a month. So I encourage you to use these mediums. And also, and I'll close with this, share your stories with your young people. The good things, but also the faults. And I oftentimes think the faults are the most instructive because they need to know where we dropped the ball. And listen to them, because as I look at Nashville, I see some similarities. You know, I showed the slide of Dr. McDonald and them standing in the gap. Y'all remember when our students, our young people, shut down I-24 in the aftermath of the Mike Brown murder?
That's right.
Y'all's parents, if they came up through the 60s, they shut down Church Street to prevent the cops from arresting our people that were sitting in. there are a lot of similarities. As we get older, we get a bit more deliberate, I think, in how we do things. Because, you know, if it mess up, then it's going to affect my families and so forth. So you can't be taking over the humanities bill. And
Not at 55.
right.
21, that's different. Yeah, 55.
And here's the point I'm trying to make. But we need our youthful energy. We need young people out here saying, okay, we need to do something right now. We don't need to wait. And I think if we can marshal that type of energy, we could go a whole lot further. So those are my final comments. And reach out to me if you have questions. And I'll
And a field trip for our Infinity kids.
For our Infinity kids. He'll be back for the Performing Arts Academy and everything.
Our kids need a field trip.
Y'all, as he takes his seat today, I want y'all to give a round of applause for Dr. Learotha Williams.
thank you.
Oh, what an awesome day we've had today. I love it. We always try to stay on task and on time with Infinity, and you know, literally, we love that 90-minute service. So we get on third Sundays and we just go in, and it's beautiful because it's uplifting, it's educational, it's inspirational, and it is highly spiritual. Brother, we appreciate you for coming in today, for sharing your gift, and I'll say this: thank you for accepting your calling, because what you're doing is not just a profession; it's a calling. And in this space, we tell people that if you get in touch with what you are born on this earth to do, then it's not just work, it's play as well. So thank you on behalf of the generations of people who, if you were not holding space for them, they would not be remembered and recognized. Thank you for those yearly libations at that tree. You're not going to be by yourself unless you want to from here on out. You let us know, we'll be out there. I'll bring the jug. We'll go out there. And with anything you need, anybody in Infinity is going to step up and be with you. And we're going to protect you, too, from anything that may come against you. Right? So no weapon formed, right? So as a community, we're very grateful. We're very happy. We're just grateful that we had a great day today. Thank you all for coming out. As always, know that Infinity is your home. It's your space. As I say at the end of services here at the Infinity Center, this place is a space of history, too. Dr. Horace Marion Frazier and his wife Elise built this house in the late 50s. It was one of the first homes built in this neighborhood when nobody could move in this neighborhood. Well, this was one of the areas we were relegated to, but they turned it into something awesome. So when you hear Crouch Hall, that's the house kitty corner across the street, Crouch family at Tennessee State. When you see Meharry families and doctors and dentists, they all lived in this neighborhood. Riverside Hospital, all of that was here. Horace Marion Frazier, who slept in this room here when it was once a bedroom, also was the youngest pathologist at Meharry Medical College. He helped start Matthew Walker Community Health Center. Passed away at 42 years old, but left a heck of a legacy. So we're literally inside a space that is resonating with the history of Nashville, and we're very grateful for it. We're honored for it. And as you said, it's something that you pointed out, Doc, they did great things so that we could do greater things. So let's continue to step up. Let's continue to shine. All hearts and minds are clear. Let us rise to our feet and let us cheerfully recognize in this moment that we are all family. I want to thank your sister Kenitha for holding down the vocals with us. Brother Daniel back there and Brother Tony as we sing our song and head on out of here. Closing Infinity for today, but never, ever in our hearts and minds. We'll get a little gentle sway here. This is our closing song at Infinity Fellowship. And we remind us that as all hearts and minds are clear and we leave this space to enter a world that is awaiting our light, recognize that as you manifest those gifts that were given uniquely to you, you are closing the deal with an agreement that you made to be the change that you want to see in this world. So when we do great things, years from now, somebody's going to call our name when they pour out water, and they're going to recognize it. And that's what we live to. That's what we aspire to be, even as we aspire to remember that we are all indeed family. Let us sing together our song of closing at Infinity Fellowship. If today's a brighter day and we are on our way, then we can begin to heal ourselves again. Oh, we remember yesterday, and yet today's the day. God's reminding me to look at you and see family. All right, now that we got it, we can sing it out loud, even at home. If today's a brighter day and we are on our way, then we can begin to heal ourselves again. Oh, we remember yesterday, and yet today's the day. God's reminding me to look at you and see family. And God's reminding me to look at you and see family. God's reminding me to look at you and see family. We speak of the love of God, the power of the ancestors in the cosmos. Rest, rule, rock, and abide with us henceforth, now and forevermore from this place. We sing together. Amen, Amen. Hotel Shalom, Namaste, Ashe. All right, y'all can hang out in the lobby, get some popcorn, see whatever's on the big screen, meet somebody, say hello, love on each other. We love you, and we'll see you next week, virtually for Yoga Sunday. Ashe.